Greetings, community. It's me, Kevin, from 1-2 Comic Talk. And the reason why I'm here today is a special reason. I'm here to actually celebrate an individual that has helped me from day one start this Artist Alley. When I met this person, I was really taken back by the strength of this individual, by the resourcefulness of this individual. This person to me kind of embodied what it took to be a successful person in this industry. It's not easy, and that's one of the reasons why Artist Alley was created, is to try to assist artists and creators, another soapbox, another platform to go ahead and basically say, look, this is what I love doing. I like expressing myself this way. And if you can help me out, and if you appreciate my stuff, more the better. Christie Shinn has helped me grow this channel and this idea into what it is today. And without, I guess, me continually go on, I want to bring on an individual that is not only a guest at this point, but is definitely an integral part of the show of Artist Alley, and my co-host, Christie Shinn.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Christie. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate everything that you've done for me since day one on this Artist Alley.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's I thank you for fitting me in the time that you could right then and there. I know we've juggled schedules, and it's weird because even though we're in, I don't even know to say lockdown, but sort of limbo, we've been somehow managing
relaxed situations, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
it's one of those things that you're just like, okay, well, whatever, right? So I'm kind of like at the okay, whatever stage. So even though the whatever stage sounds lackadaisical and nothing is going on, there's all this stuff going on. Your
most definitely right now. There's a lot of shit going on right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as out there in the world, which is, another reason why things like this is good, because I'm not saying necessarily for the distractions, but for the knowing that there are individuals out there that are doing good, and right now we're discussing things that are not necessarily a negative way, depending on how you want to perceive it, but definitely a positive in the sense that we're talking about another project of yours, another project in a short duration of time. At this point, to me, you're almost a veteran at this. And what I wanted to ask of you, if you could, for a lot of people out there in the community that feel intimidated on both sides of the courts, and I want to address that. One, as an artist and a creator, there are a lot of people that are intimidated to start a Kickstarter. And then as a person that wants to fund a Kickstarter on the other side, it's intimidating to do so because they don't know the steps in doing so, or even feeling confident that their backing is actually going to get backed and be there's going to be a reciprocation of the investment. So to first address the two questions, the first one, can you give a little insight on what it takes to start a Kickstarter to do it, and then how, for someone that doesn't know how to do one, go about the process?
Well, for me, I think I start off with an idea, but I give it time to film it. Okay, I want to do, for me, the Shitty Tarot series, with, and I kind of was thinking of the format. Because first of all, it's not a tarot deck. It's a Lenormand style deck, but I explicitly say that in the Kickstarter. But I just make fun of it in character because, she's dumb and she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, but she's going to insist on doing the wrong thing anyway, which is okay. So in the spirit of character, for me, okay, my process for doing the Shitty Tarot was that it was on my mind for a while, but I never really got down to sit down and do it. It's not because I like to procrastinate, but for me, it's it has to be the right impetus to do something. So I'm kind of going all right, the right impetus is, okay, let's do this. So I was kind of doing the thing when I was drawing it. And then in simultaneously, as I did that, I was writing out the general basic, because Kickstarter, you'll have the story. So I just started writing out what I wanted. And then I was just kind of giving myself space to kind of say, okay, I want this idea. Like it'll just go, 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 like for me. So I just would say, okay, I want to do a dusty face mask, because when COVID happened, it was like, well, shit, we need to have those. But, and some of my fans were like, dude, can you make face masks? Can you make face masks? I would totally wear it. But then you go to the practical thing, and now you don't need to have like planning stage and practical. Sometimes with like one product, you will have the planning stage and then the practical stage in that one. And then another product here is like planning stage, and then it'll move into practical, or you're like, nah, scrap that idea or whatever, or I'll change it. So in the thing of the dusty face masks, bandana things, I looked at it and I looked at the cost benefit of it. And at the time I was looking at the face mask, and to get it done as efficiently as I wanted it to be, and as much as I wanted it to be, with cost effectiveness. I know that's been made into a dirty word, but it is. Like if I went to something like Cafe Press, they would only do one at a time. They didn't do masks. So if I were to do like face masks, right, I couldn't order like 50 of them at once. And then, or even if I could, they would print it on a really small area on the mouth.
Right.
And I didn't like that for some reason. I really didn't. So I went with a bandana, because also the thing is, what I've noticed is that the bandana, it allows you to kind of breathe. And the thing is, you can use it. I don't think we're going to be in a place where we need to use face masks for the rest of our lives. You know, that's just not healthy. And I know people are going to jump on me about that, but I don't care. I'm just saying that that's not what you're built to do.
Right.
So, but at that same time, you could reuse it as it, or you can keep it as like a souvenir or whatever. Like if you have a fucking sixth sense of humor like me, you keep it. And it says something that I've actually seen people say, like, maybe someone could take DMT and talk to the coronavirus. It's like, what are you, dumb bitch? But anyway, and you know, like I'm kind of making fun of all the people that are armchair physicians, armchair historians, armchair this. And I'm not saying that people don't know things. It's just the people that say, well, I know more than you and you're wrong. And it's like, really? Go away. You know, it's like, come on, mix common sense with that knowledge, and also have knowledge with that common sense. So my personal thing is that, so I went with a bandana, and later on I liked that idea because it seemed to be more breathable, because I have cloth masks. I have different styles of masks. Like when this all started, I kind of was experimenting with them. I don't know why, I just kind of got into this mode, and I found that the ones with the valves are the best to breathe.
Gotcha.
Because you can actually have some air circulation. And if you have too much of the cloth, they can be too heavy. They can get wet, especially in the heat. Actually, the funny thing, in cold weather it wasn't that bad, but the heat actually kept it like, so you were breathing through a sock.
Sure.
And it just didn't, it was just not optimal. That's probably why those reports came out, that it's not good for you. So what you actually want to do is that with the cloth mask, it's like I wanted something with more circulation. So I actually I ordered some material from this company just to test it out. And it was a shirt, and I was doing this. I mean, it's not the best, but it helped me breathe better. So it's like, so I was looking at that. So I just called it the Dusty Bandana Face Mask or something like that. And the last one was the Pancreas Tits pin. And I already knew by making enamel pins what it took, like what the colors had to be, what it had to look like, and everything, and the size and the price. And that's how I did it. But it was just kind of like, I just knew when to kind of set it in. But it's kind of like,
you're utilizing these things as stretch goals, though, is what you're telling me, right? These are all things you're utilizing as stretch goals?
No, these are the first three things that I'm doing right now as the initial goal. The stretch goals are the 2 pins. But the thing is that I have to hit my goal first of 5,500. But at 2,500, I want to show people what they're going to get as a stretch goal, because one is glowing and one is glitter. And one of them is like Cove Thick 19, and the other one is the Plague Doctor. We all have more appreciation from the Lin Kuei clan from the Mortal Kombat. Imagine opting to do martial art. I can't read martial arts.
Yeah, it's, you know, from the Mortal Kombat game.
No, I know. Yeah, I grew up with that, and it's like, yeah, I remember that shit where it had, you know, five rib cages and 3 skulls every time you did a fatality, like the old school thing. And then they were saying, that's so violent, that's so terrible, how could you do that? And then all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden it's like really gory. Like if you look at the latest Mortal Kombat fatalities, it is bad. It's like
Yeah,
sawing
gnarly.
people in half, they're breaking their bones, they're ripping each other's faces off and shit. So the thing is, I would say to aggressively relaxing, yes, you
Hmm.
could probably do it. You just need to have make sure you have valves,
Exactly.
have breathing
Yeah.
valves. Like seriously, have a breathing valve. That will, you know, if you guys feel that you need to wear a mask at this time, and again, I'm not arguing your choice here. I'm just saying this option, get one with a valve. That will be easier to breathe.
Yeah, because the overall is what you're saying is you're able to expel the CO that you're expelling. That way, you're not just continuously recycling it back into you, which is not good.
Yeah, yeah, and also your breath has condensation, and it's like
Yeah.
if a cloth mask will just like kind of, you know, make it harder to breathe through, so you're kind of drowning in a way. So I mean, I only put on a cloth mask if I just go briefly somewhere and I just am in somewhere and it's not that long of a visit. But if for longer visits, if I have to wear it, I'll wear a mask over with a valve. So, but it's good for allergies sometimes too. But it also depends on your breathing requirements because some people have issues with their nasal passages. So it's harder for them to wear one versus other
Hmm.
things. And again, I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying the options that I have tried for myself for easier breathing. So, and yeah, the tarot deck, it's like basically it's a fortune telling deck. And ironically, I started this all when before the pandemic. And now it's pretty funny because now since I'm doing it, I'm kind of laughing because it's sort of like, wow, I'm kind of seeing into the future. It's like, so before all this started, I called it I told you so. And
Right.
it's kind of funny because now, like, when you look at all the state of the world today, despite fuckery and all this other stuff, everybody's pointing fingers going, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. If you didn't do this, whether they're right or wrong, it's funny. It's like, man, I kind of picked a name for this kind
An
of,
overall theme that turned into reality.
right. So it's like really funny. It's like, oh, I told you so. I told you so. So it's just so funny right there.
Well,
I'm not
speaking of which, I mean, can you get into that? I mean, some people may not even know what a tarot deck is, let alone one that you're using as a parody and a jump off from what you've been doing as a base for a while. I mean, Demon Bitch is something now, what, over a year old?
I started it, I think, in 2016, 2017. So it's at least
Oh,
3 or 4
wow.
years old. I've been
Okay.
at it for the last few years. And this is her first book right here. You have the second book, She Sucks. So this is the
Yes.
first book, Hellfire and Damnation. And I did it because I was pissed off at some girls I hated because they're cunts. So I started making fun of them. And then, and just the stupid shit they would do. And then this is the latest book, Alcoholics and Anonymouses. And it's like Water for Chocolate, except terrible.
Why don't you
So
go ahead and give a synopsis of what this character is, what it's based on, and all that. Some people may not know.
okay, so Demon Bitch is a low level demon from the 13th pit of hell where people throw their dog shit and gum wrappers. And she wants to bring the second coming of Armageddon, but the first one never happened because she's stupid. So she basically did not get the memo that Armageddon never happened. So she's going to be the one to bring it in LA. The only thing is that she gets distracted by promiscuous sex and hard drugs. Essentially, she's one of those people that goes on Instagram all the time, that wants to do all the things and be famous, but never do any of the work for it.
That is that's kind of a lot of mentality in a nutshell too. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, even though you may have started it as a based on a single individual, I have found that I can identify aspects that I read with and again, it's not a judgment thing. It's more of an analogy, more of a profile of saying, okay, this kind of is this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of funny because in this case, I'm just laughing because, I was talking with somebody like who's a woman, and we kind of like related on certain things because there was this one character called Shipper that fetishizes Asians, and she's actually a person of color. And nobody comments on like within the groups like how they're terrible to each other too. Like not all Asians get along, not all Hispanics and Latinos get along,
Sure.
not everybody in the black community gets along. There's like their own style. It's like different flavors of tea, but it's like, oh shit. And it's funny because I was making fun of that whole fetishization by Asian by anybody really. And one of the things, hey, I'm trying to say
Metaphorical.
what?
Metaphorical.
Metaphorical. I'm so sorry. I'm like brain dead. I apologize. My sleep was terrible. But yeah, so yeah, but sounds like a Christopher Moore promise. Love it so much. Where should I buy? You can find it on the Kickstarter, dude. Just support it and you can get one. So, but thank you, Aggressively Real Xing. And yeah, I do like the masks. It's like sort of fascinating. I'm like researching them, not because I'm going to wear them for the rest of my life, but if I go to another country like South Korea, my background is Korean, they have an issue with pollution. Primarily, it's coming from China and their own industrial pollution. So the population will voluntarily wear masks anyway. So I'm looking at better rebreathing masks or better masks, not like the whole like ventilator. You don't need that, but like the simple like valve with like the filter and everything. But going back, yeah, it's like we were talking about the Asian fetishization. So I drew a comic of Shitbird wearing a mask and saying, I get to go fuck Asian guys now. And it's like, because everybody kind of, I think like the premise in America, like some people knew, but they thought the primary thing for Asian people was like, we wore it when we were sick. And I'm like, okay, well, that's one of the things in Asia. But what I came to understand, because I was born and raised here, so I don't know all of it, but I have relatives in Korea. And I also watch vlogs of Korea, and like there's this one vlog that I like called Two Hearts, One Soul, but Seoul, Korea, Seoul. And it's a Canadian woman, she's married to a Korean guy, and they were wearing the masks. And the thing is, it's a very voluntary thing. It's just for the pollution. Like the pollution is really bad. So the government doesn't tell you, oh, you got to wear a mask because it's polluted. They just say, here it is. Here it is. And then some people just choose to wear them. I mean, the pollution's really bad. They have air filters in their home. Like, and they even have apps saying, oh, the air pollution is terrible. So they go out and wear the mask if they choose to. Sure. It's a lot of the fine dust. But anyway, so if you see a lot of, here's my mask nerdiness about here. If you see something that says PM 2, I think 0.5 or 2.5, they're talking about the dirt particles that are in the air, but not necessarily here. I don't know about here, but I know the air isn't as bad here as it is in Korea.
Oh, most definitely. No.
Anyway, there's my mask nerdiness. I know. But yeah, go Aggressively Relaxing to the Kickstarter. Let me go ahead and put it up here again and do the thing.
And to give people a little understanding of even what, used to be around here, smog levels used to be to the point back in 1974 all the way up until 1978 to where they used to issue smog alerts. And, they were recommended not even to go outside, let alone do anything active.
Yeah, like I remember
we don't have those anymore because we've stepped it back. All you do is look at pictures back in the 70s of LA and you couldn't see buildings. Now you can see buildings.
Yeah, like my buddy Lawrence, he's born and bred here. Lawrence of Real Deal Comics. He actually was telling me like your lungs would burn, like when you would go out, like you'd feel a burning sensation. I'm from NorCal, so we didn't have that, but I remember reading when I was a kid. You probably remember Scholastic Magazine. They would give it to us when we were kids, and we'd be reading about it, about the world that was our newspaper. And they did talk about, like, some people were talking about wearing masks and ventilators. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is like a totally foreign thing to me in NorCal, in Northern California, when I grew up. I grew up in the Bay Area, just as a heads up, guys. So I read that and I was laughing. I was like, what? And then when I got older and I actually moved down here, they were telling me about it. I'm like, oh. And they said, there were actually stricter laws about it, like including like some new inventions like the catalytic converter, from what I heard, helped clean up a lot of shit.
Well, in 1977, when they're implementing all the recycling and they're putting in all the all the smog systems inside of vehicles back then, and cars are getting shitty gas mileage and all that, that's when it went down. Plus, we also had that gas crisis crash and all that. So between the two, you did see a lot of reduction. But I mean, the overall thing is to kind of get back what you were saying is, we made a recognition in the late 60s that we had a pollution problem. So the EPA and all that did decide to jump in, and you see a definitive reduction to the point that we are not all walking around, like you're saying, in China. And a good portion of people are wearing masks because it's highly recommended.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just like one of those things. So I decided to get it. And, I mean, like, look, where you are in the mask debate, I don't care, but it's just like, look, if you're going to get it as a form of personalization in some way. So I decided to make that whole, like I actually have it around kind of the mouth part area, or kind of in the center. You can probably adjust it however you want to. It says like, maybe we should take DMT and talk to the coronavirus. And it's just this big like big circle in the center with viruses and nasty shit everywhere with demon bitch. And the thing is, like, demon bitch makes everything into a horrible joke. And that's the thing. It's like when I created demon bitch, it was really a pissed off comment to kind of vent. But then when I realized like how people resonated with it, it's like I feel like I kind of do the Lord's work. Now, when people think that I'm kind of being sarcastic, it's like, okay, we're taught no matter what religious denomination we are, oh, you should forgive. But the problem is that we kind of have a weird idea of what forgiveness is. It's like, oh, we should let that person back in our lives. I said, no, that's reconciliation. That's different. You can
Right.
forgive somebody and you could be loving and forgiving, like, oh, I love you. I forgive you. But then there's also another thing of like, I don't care if you get hit by a bus. I just don't want to think about you anymore. And that's how another way you let it go. And it's just like sometimes some people push us to that. I think that no matter how good of a person we are, we're going to find somebody to hate because they're going to be somebody that pushes our buttons. And it's there for a reason. And I have noticed that the people that are the most hateful and the most judgmental are the ones that shove it down. And the thing is that but you're saying, but they're spewing hate and all that. It's like, yeah, because they're filled so much full of it because they've shoved it down all those years from day one saying anger is bad or whatever, instead of just dealing with it and feeling it, and I'm not saying like you need to go and cry in a big river of tears in your office. I mean, you just sit there and you just kind of like, okay, I'm really pissed off. I mean, you don't need to do anything other than let yourself feel it. And people put so much pressure and self-judgmental shit on themselves. It's amazing. And in
Because
like
what they're not allowing themselves to do is a form of catharsis. What they're saying is that I have to sit there and let this build up or find a different method to allow it out. When to me, I can take the book and open it up and look at a page and go, okay, see, I'm not the only one that thinks that shit like this is stupid, or okay, I'm not the only one that has witnessed some of these things in life. So, okay, now I know that it's not just me. I can let it go now. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
like
sometimes, and again, that's what I've gotten out of the book is I'm
yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah, like, oh, dude, I hate it. Like, I've had people come up and say, I really fucking hate this person. I'm so angry. And then they've let it go because they've
right,
admitted, I feel these things. Like, we have in our society have said, oh, hate is so bad, you can't feel it. It's like, there's some things that hate is definitely merited. Like, if somebody abuses you or somebody backstabbed you or anything, you have every right to feel all sorts of anger and shit about it. But I'm not saying like, now mind you, don't be an idiot and go out and hurt other people that have nothing to
right.
do with it. I've noticed that people that tend to do that tend to have a history of just jamming it down inside or just not compartmentalizing it or dealing with it. So they get into and spew it. Like, I haven't been as guilty as like something that bad, but I've noticed like I've been carrying anger around inside. Sometimes I'll kind of say something and I'm like, whoa, what am I? I'm a little angrier than I should be about this. Why? And then I'll realize it triggered something that somebody said back. And I was told like, oh, well, you just need to forget about it. And I hate that because sometimes there is like, you have to assess for yourself. Is it really worth it? Like, okay. And then the other disempowering phrase, which I didn't like from people saying to me is that, oh, well, they've already one upped you anyway. They'll one up you anyway if you think about them. But it's like, I'm angry about this. This is fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about it and it's like, what's funny is that they go like, well, you just have space in your head for them. It's like, or they just occupy space in your head. I said, yes, but I make the bitches pay rent. So I write and draw things that they have done and I show it to the world and the world laughs at them in a way. I don't put their names up.
And there's a definite distinction between forgiveness and dismissiveness and understanding and fuck you and there's they all play a part depending on when they're all, I guess, presented their circumstance. So no, I agree, and that's the cool thing is you come across these circumstances a lot of times that you depict these circumstances a lot of times in Demon Bitch. So it allows the person, and I've said this to you before. I read a self-help book by a gentleman named Timber Hawkeye, and he's part of a group that he's named the Buddhist Boot Camp, and that's the name of the book too.
Yeah.
And where I get some of my self-help, stuff from is reading out of his book. And I find that on the opposite end of the spectrum, but in the same way that when I read your book is it just comes across in a different form. But at times I see the same thing and go, do you realize that this is saying the same thing as this is saying, but this just comes across maybe a little crass. But as even Timber says, don't get hung up on the messenger. Think about the message. So I mean, I look at the message and I'm like, this is saying the same fucking thing as this.
Yeah.
It's just depicted different.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that like I can do doo-doo jokes and poo-poo jokes, but if you don't have a certain art to them, then they're kind of stupid, right?
Yeah.
Like it just they can only go so far. Like with me, it's like I'll draw a shipper with like poo coming out of her cloaca and stuff. If nobody knows about bird anatomy, it's like the main hole that covers the genitalia and the anus. So it's like I just start making like really creative things. Of course, some of my friends are like, Jesus Christ, Christy, but it's like kind of like my playground to play around with that. Like I'll just like draw something fucked up. Like I'll draw a demon bitch standing there, and then like all of a sudden her, belly button seam, that X like pops, and then like her vomiting vagina happens, and people are like, "What the fuck are you drawing?" But that's the point. Is like that whole loss and noise that I like about drawing about crafts comics. It's like, and they're like, "Well, you're just trying to poke fun at people." I'm like, yeah, that's the point. I mean, that's why I draw it, because it's like when you really look at this, these people should not have a hold over you or get away with what half they do. But it's sort of like they're kind of so ridiculous that you just kind of just stand back because you're just in so much shock that they do this sort of thing. But it's not, as I said, but it's not a blaming thing unless you're talking about the actual perpetrators, which I find funny because I ridicule them, because it's like sometimes it's like my bar is set so low. Like for me, actually, and most importantly, I don't consider humanity stupid as a whole. But I notice that's what we default to. It's like, oh, people are stupid. People are stupid. People are stupid. Guess what? Now everybody's kind of stupid, Everybody's
Right.
dumb. Everybody's acting crazy. Everybody's acting doit, doit, doit. I'm right, blah, blah, blah. I never did like that, because then never left room. And also on the other side of the coin, never gave responsibility to people that fucked up. Like,
Accountability.
Yeah, accountability, like lack of accountability. It's like, you're not accounting these people. Well, they're just dumb. And like, because I hate them, they're dumb. And it's like, I know there's truly stupid people, but for the most part, they know what they're doing, or they're so caught up in their fucking thing that they're not even called to be self-aware of their own shit.
Right.
So that's why I just think it's so funny when people say people are stupid. People are stupid. It's like, then they go like, well, I found this person, but they're assholes. And it's like, well, you think people are stupid. That's what you put out, And I do believe like what you put out comes back to you. But I don't mean in a condemning way, because if it was in a condemning way, I'd have this shit from Demon Bitch. It's like, I'm putting it out there because I'm showing you this is fucking ridiculous. You don't need to be a part of this. You don't need to be a victim to this. And if you see them and you laugh at them, you can break free of them. They're nothing to you. And people are like, oh, well, they're nothing to me. That's why I ignore them. It's like, well, okay, that's one way of doing it. But sometimes you can't ignore them because they're screaming in your ear, or they're being just vomiting everywhere. It's kind of hard to ignore that, right?
Exactly.
So what you can do is just draw about it and make fun of it and see the humor in the situation. And I think that's a great thing to do, and be honest about it.
Now, again, to get back to a person such as myself that is I've never backed a Kickstarter. I don't know the process. I don't know what you do. So from the point of following a link, what is the process of backing a Kickstarter?
Okay, so when you go into the Kickstarter, right, you're going to be faced with like the face page, right? I would put mine up, but mine has like actually some backer information and stuff, so it's going to be different.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
Confidentiality, that's bad. So like if you click on a preview link, which will go live with the actual Kickstarter, if you put your stuff on preview, and then you hit back this project. So when you do hit back this project, it'll give you some options. But you will always have to use a credit card. And if you have a Kickstarter account, there will be a credit card that you have on file. Now make sure it's up to date, because sometimes your pledge, like because it will take out the money at the end of the campaign. So mine is slated to finish on June 23rd, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. So at the very end of that day. So I would say, I would say essentially you need to, like, when you hit it back this project, or let's say if you kind of want to think about it, you hit remind me, because that'll remind you, I think, within 24 to 48 hours of it going to end.
Oh.
But the thing is that when you back a Kickstarter, the thing is that you want to do it kind of soon. I mean, it's up to you ultimately, but when you want to do it, it'll give it further impetus to get more rewards. And also you could switch your pledge up.
Speaking of which, so between the pledges, the rewards, and like tiers, how does that work for a person like me that has no idea? How does that work?
So what it is that for me, how I price it is the MSRP or the, excuse me, what I would be selling the item for. So the dusty face mask would go for $20. It's a 20 by 20 piece of cloth. You fold it and you put it on the back. It's a bandana. And they will be screen printed with that, I believe. That's what it is. So you have that. For me, also in Inception, one of the things that I actually forgot about going because we went off on a tangent, I did
Mhm.
actually, is that you have the conception, you have the development where I did all the cards. And then what I did was is that at the same time, because sometimes some printers and stuff have certain specs. So you want to do the artwork within those specs or proportionally within those specs so that when it gets to that point, you don't need to like resize it and recrop it or anything. So with them, I asked them, okay, what's the price for this option, if this option for the card? And they said, okay, you have this and this and this, and it's this much for that. And then you follow it out. And then I divide it by the amount that it's supposed to be, like the total kicks, like the total amount. Like for me, it's like, for example, I would have to order 500 decks of cards. You know,
Okay.
that's the minimum at that moment. So they would give me a price. I would divide it between X amount of decks of cards that I would have. And then I would find out my cost. And then I kind of
Mhm.
have an idea of like the shipping cost that I would have and then build my price up on that.
So
But
right now, how many tier levels do you have on your present Kickstarter?
I have not counted it yet.
I'm sorry.
Presently,
It
um,
wasn't supposed to be a test, I promise.
well, I have like the $5. I have the $1, the $2, the $5, and then I have like I think I have probably 9 or 10.
Oh,
I'm
great. Okay.
guessing. Probably I have more, and I'm vastly underdoing it. But I do different combinations, and the thing is that I will be happy to do a custom combination itself. I just signed up and made my first pledge ever. It was super easy. Looking forward to the $5 PDF story. You're
There
gonna
you
love
go.
it. Thank
Now
you.
that's a great understanding of how easy it was. So, and you just basically touched on something just now that you said that you would custom make stuff. Now, I assume that you're actually offering a service that most people don't. Is what I
Well,
assume you're telling me.
well, what it is I'll make a custom order. Now, this is a difference. Like if you order a bandana from me, I'm not going to take the existing printed bandana and make something custom out of it. That's not what I mean. But let's say if I don't have a tier for cards and a bandana, maybe 2 pins, right? But what you can do is that you can ask me, hey, I want these existing things in the Kickstarter, but I want them in this combination. Can you do it for me? I said, okay, let me do it. And I'll figure out the cost. And then I'll figure out the shipping, how to ship it. And I will put it up. I will let you know what it is. I don't know if I can. I think how it's set up Kickstarter, I can't link to the actual tier itself, but I'll put like a silly name like, oh, bad choices, good decisions or something like that or whatever.
Love it.
And then I'll tell them like, it's in this category, it's in this price range. That's what is going on. And I would be, and I'd let them know in a message, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool," and they'd be so happy about it.
That's insanely accommodating because for the average individual to even make the consideration that they're going to even try to mix and match can be rather overwhelming. I mean, it's difficult enough to actually put together a Kickstarter. It's even that much more insane when you sit there and go, okay, I'm going to start pulling and matching and doing all this for people. I mean, how the hell are you able to do this?
I think it's just because I have a lot of a personal connection with a lot of my fans. Even though, like, I guess the more fans you get or the bigger base you get, it is harder to personalize it. But you
Hmm.
just try to address them. If you personally address them, like for me, the other important thing for a Kickstarter is that you write a thank you note to the person that pledged. You got to think they work for that money, they earned it in some way, they have it, they're willing to give it to you. Give them a short thank you note. Now I know some of the bigger veterans and everything will go like, well, you got to go and make a canned one, and hey, I'm not knocking that, but I don't like doing that. So every time somebody drops a pledge within that day or the next day, I will message them, say, hey, thank you. And I'll write something stupid. Like for a while, like I wrote to some people, I just said, like, and again, even though if it's the same to different people, I'm physically writing it out. Or sometimes I'll change it up or something. I just kind of use this as an opportunity to kind of fuck with things and change it. Like there was one where I said thank you to somebody and I told them like, hey, you know what? She's like sucks so much like a fucking old shop vac full of broken glass. And just like that imagery right there, like fucking makes people laugh. It makes people have their day. Because I'm saying something fucked up and it's funny, but it's being ridiculous at the same time. But at the same time, I'm saying thank you. And they appreciate it. That's why a lot of people come back. You get a lot of retention if you're personal with it. And
Sure.
people kind of also go in this thing like, oh, I have to give everything or I give nothing or very little. And it's like, just meet the energy that what it is. I know that sounds kind of woo woo, but it's like, somebody sent me a pledge. He's publicly said $5. So I'm going to use aggressively relaxing as an example. He sent me $5 as a pledge. And he said like, wow, this is my first thing ever. And so I wrote him, thank you, dude. And he can go and read it out if he wants. It's a confidential note. I mean, it's not like anything dirty, but I just like sometimes I'll write shit like, oh, just throw a fucking cinder block at her ass. It's like, make sure you find her and do that. But then that's the thing. You make it personal to that. And you can even tune into your feelings at the time. Like if you're not having a good day and somebody says like gives you a pledge, I mean, that's a big booster to your day. Cause you're like, yeah, no matter how big or small it is, like, don't we all want bigger pledges? Sure. But what I would have noticed is that people, when they give $1 or $5 or something, it helps move it along to bigger things. And those are equally as important. But it's funny because it's like, even if you're having a shitty day, there are times I've had an incredibly shitty day when I've had my Kickstarter. And I just said, hey, thank you. And I'm just thinking of like, I just want to punch somebody in the face. I said, oh yeah, make sure you smash a cinder block across Demon Bitch's ass. Because how her character is like, you can beat the shit out of her. You won't feel bad. And I even had one person ask me, do you think it incites violence towards women? I'm like, I just said she's a she demon. Demons are assholes. So it's like, it's not a person per se. It's just a demon. So demons, what do we want to do? They're at least douchebags in other religions. So it's like, you might as well just fucking punch them in the face. It's great.
Well, and actually what I want to touch on one thing and then make mention of another. So the mention is you and I have another show coming up in a half hour, and I definitely want to give you. I know it's a little daunting, but it's exciting too.
It's all right, man.
And I want you to get a little rest, and I want you to get something to eat. But I want to actually touch on this. When I had first really got to, I know I've seen you and met you at the Bug and at other places in the past. All right. Yeah. But I never actually got to carry a conversation with you until the signing event over at Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And I had told you, hey, look, I had gotten off work. I only have so much time because I had put only so much money inside the meter. We were talking. We were hitting it off. We were doing well in the sense of I was getting a good feel of what you were trying to convey about the story. I was definitely in on the story. I had bought it. But what I really want to say is the note that you had put on the inside to touch on what you had mentioned before, because I know it by heart because of how personal it was. And you said, to Kevin, fuck the meter. And I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, it was an embodiment of not only what you were representing and what you were trying to convey and what the book was based on and how it was based and the mentality on what it was based about, but it exemplified who you were as a person and what you wanted to do for a person, me, that was patroned your work. You know what I mean? So it was so custom, so personal that, yeah, I mean, I'm all in. I mean, to this day, I mean, you and I have been where we're at now. So it does build relationship. It does offer a way for a person that's starting a Kickstarter to better, I guess, communicate and connect with the person that is, I guess, handing over their hard-earned money, like you made mention before.
Yeah,
so
I mean, like I work hard.
Fucking cool.
It's like you work hard for the money. Like people, like there's a reason why. Like I never get into the rich versus poor thing because it's like, dude, we all have our money. It's your choice to give it to me or not, and you can make that choice any way you want. And I'm kind of like at this point now where it's like, look, you want to get it from me, you can get it. If you don't, you don't. I don't like forcing people, but I do think that I can make a damn good case for you getting my shit. you know? And even then, like, if you don't like it, like, I've had people that are friends of mine or that I know, and they say, I hate Demon Bitch. It fucking sucks. I really hate it. But then they feel bad because they actually look at my other work and like, wow, she can really draw. I feel really shitty. I'm like, I'm not going to take it personally. You're not being a dick if you don't like it. If you don't like it and you hate it, like, you're a person, you know. I don't like certain things. Like, am I a dick? Like, I don't like that whole cancel culture revolving around that. Oh, you don't like this thing. Well, you're a terrible person. It's like, go fuck off. I just don't like it, you know? It's like some people like bananas, some people don't like bananas. Like, you're going to fucking be an asshole about that, you know?
It's so subjective, you know what I mean? And that's the
Yeah.
beauty about the diversity of art is that, you know what I mean, you can actually argue that in it and of itself is this or is this not art, you know what I mean? And that has been something that's been going on for a couple thousand years easily, right?
Yeah. Like,
So,
yeah.
I
Like,
mean,
I'll tell people like my art is shitty, and they're like, and most of them get it. They're like, oh, because it's about a shitty person. It's
right,
shitty done about a shitty person. But it's not like the work itself is shitty. But it's kind
right.
of funny because I sort of felt like I built up this thing where I can never be upset about my work. Like, even if somebody hates it and they want to insult me and say, that's such a terrible, shitty book, I hate it. It's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, I did
And
my job.
that's the biggest fuck you to them. Like, I don't care. You fucking, I won either way. Fuck you, you know?
Well, that means you did your job, especially if someone's offended. It's like, you know what? I did it about a person that's offensive. Well, I'm offended by it. That means I did my job.
Yeah, like, I did about
Right?
something I hate. Fuck you. I don't care. Like, I've had some people come at me sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I just start laughing at them. I mean, last Kickstarter that I had, I think I just about was about to hit 4K. And one guy said, his name was Rumple Foreskin on Reddit. That's what I was fucking laughing about. So I
I
took a
remember that.
screenshot, and right before that, I hit 4K, and he had said, I don't see how anybody would throw money at this. So I took that screenshot and I put it up on Twitter, and I wrote, I saw this picture and I laughed at him. And it was just like, I said, here's the Kickstarter link. And it's like this. It's like people think that the internet is a big bad place, and it can be, like the world. But
Yeah.
if you know how to navigate it and learn when to brush it off, and it doesn't mean ram the anger downside. Like, people said, I'm so surprised you don't give any fucks. And I said, yeah, but I felt years of being really sensitive about shit. But then I just realized the best way to kind of fuck with them is to laugh at them. I love that you're a tough one, Christy. Thank you, Comic Book Fever. But it's like, I just kind of don't give a fuck about certain things. Like, it's like, oh, you're really upset and stuff. But it made them more angrier that I would go and laugh at them or fuck with them. And one of them is actually, it's kind of funny. Every Kickstarter that I've done that has been successful, I failed on my first one, so maybe this is why. I got dick pics, like one dick pic from a dude, like just random, like just, and I would, and you know, like most of the girls would be like, I would be offended. I cussed him out. I yelled at him. I deleted him. And I said, oh, well, let me just fuck with him. This is great. So I made it into a bit. I mean, obviously I covered the dick because nobody wants to see their fucking gross ass dick.
Sure. Yeah, no,
So
we're good with that.
yeah, the most recent one that I did, and I put it in one of my updates. I swear to God, guys, my updates are almost never boring. But I try to communicate with people. Oh, what's funny is one of the things that I wrote was one guy, this was before the Kickstarter happened. So I said, damn, the God sent me something sacrificial earlier or something. So I was working on something, and I look up and it goes, bong, like, and I look up and it's like this dude's dick. But I got to tell you, like, the first thought in my head is like, did he have cancer? Like, it looked weird. It looked weird. And so I immediately, it just fell out of, the words fell out of my mouth as I was typing it. I said, that looks malformed. I typed that straight to him. And then for a minute, it kind of clicked after a second. I said, oh, are you okay? What's wrong? You have a problem? And literally right. And I just like, I had to screenshot the shit on myself. I screenshot it. And then as soon as I, like, not more than a second after I typed those phrases out, he deleted it. He said, I'm sorry, I sent that by mistake. What do you mean by a problem?
How do you send? I accidentally fell on my camera with my dick hanging out.
I had a pose, man. And I swear to God, like, I posted the censored version up on one of the humor groups I go to. I had to cut out his name and everything. Hey, what's up, Comics on the Mind? How's it going?
Miss you, mind.
Yeah, so what ended up happening is that I had so many girls asking me like, now I want to see it. How bad is it? And
Oh shit.
and I said, okay, fine. So I went straight to their profile. Said they explicitly said I want to see it just to see for the hell of it. I said, all right, fine. So I sent it to them, and I actually ended up sending that fucking thing out so much
Oh my
that
god.
I mean it still had his name taken out, but it was uncensored. Like you actually saw the penis. I actually sent that fucking dick pic so much that Facebook even restricted me because these women weren't my friends. So I think they thought I was spamming.
Yeah, okay. I do remember when this happened. And you know what? I think this is a perfect way that we end the show. We'll blow everybody's fucking minds and let them go, what the hell? Because we got to start a show in 20 minutes.
And then it says comic book favors, and maybe he was trying to send it to his mom. Who knows? Maybe
Oh,
he said,
yeah.
"Yeah, mom, my dick looks weird and stuff." But yeah, it. So apparently, I'm just gonna say this: the dude, I think of this, he's gonna drop trow with some woman one day, and she's
Oh, my
going
God.
like, "I recognize that you're Chernobyl dick," because that's
Oh,
what
my
he said.
God. Oh, that's fucking classic.
Yeah. So it's like you just fuck with people that do that to you. I just said, "Is that malformed?" It
Hey,
really
community,
did.
if you missed this, you got to watch the show on Rewind. The reason of the show is we started this show with Christie coming on the first Artist Alley, and ever since she has co-hosted with us. This special Artist Alley was to give her a little Kickstarter push. She's got a Kickstarters going on. The links are in below in the description. The links are in the chat. A couple, I know at least one person is actually just did their first backing of a Kickstarter.
Glad
And
I
if you
popped in
haven't done one before, try to do one now. They're cheap, they're easy, and hey, you know Christie. So if you want to see more of us, and there's definitely going to be more of us, tune back in about 20 minutes where Christie and I will be giving an interview to Edward and June of, you know what? I'm not going to get too descriptive. Come back in 20 minutes and we'll hang out with one each other again. Christy, you have anything that you'd like to say to the community before we end this broadcast?
Well, I guess the wonderful description I heard from one woman was that it looks like a tube sock filled with oatmeal.
And on that, we are out from us at 1-2 Comic